This simple project is called Crowns and Towers. Using small squares, you can build these little origami crowns. They are puzzles. Once you have several crowns, you can start to build a tower by covering each crown with a layer of paper, adding a new crown. A game can be played that includes a jumping frog. By pressing on the back, you could get the frog to jump into the crown, and only then would you be allowed to cover and add a new crown to build a tower. Let's learn how to fold the elemental puzzle piece. For each crown, you're going to need 4 small squares of paper, which can be trimmed from many sources of recyclable paper. These squares happen to be 3.5 inches square. You can use any size. Begin by folding in half, corner to corner, making a triangle shape like this. So you have 2 layers. Fold in half, narrow corner to narrow corner, and open halfway, making a square corner between these 2 flaps. That is a finished puzzle unit. Couldn't be simpler. To build a crown, insert the corner flap of one puzzle piece between the layers of another. Notice how I put the green into the yellow. I'm going to alternate my colors. Green is where I left off, so I'm going to add yellow into green. And now I'm going to add my last puzzle piece, in this case green into yellow. And now, to keep the pattern in an organized way, I'm going to always put the new puzzle piece into the old. You can vary the structure, you can arrange them in different ways, and you can certainly use fewer or more than 4. Now you have a finished crown. The fun part of the game would be to have everyone ready with a full complement of 12 pieces. That's enough for 3 crowns. Say 1, 2, 3, go! And quickly build a crown. If you're using the frog as a jumping game, try to get the frog into your first crown. Then you're allowed to go to the second level. Jump another frog in. The first person to get all 3 crowns with a frog in each, all the way to the top, could be the winner. And you can make up your own rules. Crowns and towers. Have fun. These fun little jumping frogs are simple to make and from almost any paper. You can see here we have used little coupons from magazine subscriptions. They actually work very well because the paper is very stiff. Smaller sheets are better. They'll jump very well. I'm going to use some simple unpatterned color for you to be able to see how this is done. This paper is about 6 inches square, but frogs from 4-inch or smaller paper will jump best. Begin with the display side against the table, diamond-wise, like this. Fold in half, corner to corner, to make a triangle. Now we're going to fold the triangle in half by bringing the 2 narrow corners together, like this. So we have these several layers. I like to have this sharply folded edge topmost on my frog, so when I bring the paper back flat this way, I like to organize these corners with this ridge in the middle and top. We're going to now take the bottom left and right corners and make them meet at the center bottom of the paper. That's where that crease line ends. Like this. One from the left, one from the right. Make good sharp creases. See how I use the side edge of my thumbnail. Your paper will look like this. Let's turn it over to the other side. And we have a valley crease here in the middle and folded edges left and right. Looks like a house, doesn't it? One at a time, bring a side folded edge to the valley crease in the center and fold. Let this flap come out so the point shows. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side, meeting at the crease. Looks like a rocket ship now. Up at the top, you'll see that there are two layers. One is free to move in front. And we're going to fold this down. This will be the frog's mouth. Now let's bring that mouth back up. And here we have a horizontal crease line. And that's our target. Using the bottom edge and all the layers together, we're going to roll the paper to match the bottom edge up. It's thick rather, you see, in this space right here. So get it curling if it kinks first. And then you'll be able to move it to exactly where you need to and flatten it out. Now we have what will be the hind legs of the frog, and we need to bring them at the back end. I want you to pay attention to this collection of edges and the very bottom edge. When you move these edges down to the bottom edge, leave a space there. You really don't want any of this underlayer paper appearing beyond that edge. It will prevent your frog from jumping the best it could jump. And I'll show you why, because when we turn the paper over now, there's our cute little frog with a happy open mouth. It's this edge that you would press on like a tiddlywink. If your finger slipped off the back edge onto a lower edge, it would trap your frog against the table. Once again, the smaller, springier papers work especially well. Use this jumping frog to play the crown and towers game. What you're looking at is a paper scoop made from the colorful wrapper from a leftover cat litter bag, minus the lining. And this is how we play a game called Scoopy Ball. A simple wadded up piece of paper serves as the ball. These scoops from any large piece of paper can be used to toss and catch the paper ball between two or more contestants. And it's quite a clever little thing to do. We're going to actually learn from a simple square of origami paper. And whatever size square you like to use for larger or smaller contestants, use at least a 10-inch square. That's what I'm using here. And let's begin by folding in half, corner to corner, to make a triangle. Now we're going to fold in half, matching the two narrow corners, like this. And unfold. We're going to take each of these two small corners, one from the left and one from the right, move it up to the top square corner, and fold. Like that. Now let's return those corners back to the bottom. We're setting up the architecture of this, these creases, which are very helpful in making the plan of the shape. Next, we bring the top front layer down to the bottom. And then, one at a time, we're going to fold in the left and right corners. Your paper will begin to look like an open envelope, like this. You can see how all of the shapes, one at a time, guide you through to the next step. Just like an envelope, there is an opening. And what we're going to put in there, one at a time, using the creases that we already have in the paper, are these corners. Over the edge, down inside, and flatten. Like that. And likewise with the other one. Using the existing crease, up, down, and in, and flatten. The last thing we need to do is to transform this simple shape into the scoop. Grabbing the center of the thick folded edge, pulling it away from the square corner, you will see that this paper will want to take the shape of a scoop. And you can use it to scoop other things with. Any scrap of paper will serve as a paper ball. And this is actually relaxing and fun. And very quickly, from simple recyclable materials, you can create the equipment for a very enjoyable game of catch. We call it Scoopy Ball. Try it, have fun. This is a cube made from used postcards. There's 12 cards all together, and you can make cubes of many different sizes out of many kinds of materials. Here we've used snack bags that are actually covering pieces of cardboard. These cubes are very sturdy. You can use them as gift boxes. And I'm going to teach you how to do this using file cards. It gives you an idea of the kinds of rectangles you could use. Basically, you need 6 pieces for the core of the cube, which when built with 6 pieces will look like this. And then you need another 6 pieces to apply to the outside to put decorative paneling. This is a traditional model, and I learned about putting the paneling on the outside of this from Janine Mosley, who's used this cube unit to be able to build a remarkable thing called the Menger sponge. She used business cards, many thousands of them, to build that wonderful sculpture. Okay, let's build cube unit sets first. Cubes are made out of 6 square surfaces. And if you take identical rectangles and put them 90 degrees to each other, they actually can do the measuring for you. Notice that I want a nice clean outside. So when I do this step, I've got the lined part that I don't wish to see facing together on the inside. Now once you have these things neatly registered like this, you can fold, for instance, this bottom edge over this way, rotate it, keeping everything registered, and fold the other one over that edge. Make good sharp creases, and if you want to use a folding tool to do this, you may. So the purple card's done, but not the pink card yet. So when we flip the paper over to the other side, we can use the purple card to guide the creasing of the pink card. You can see that this side is longer than that side, and by I mean the dimensions this way. It doesn't really matter. What really matters is the square area right there in the middle. And when we remove these cards, you can see that they have identical square faces. And you're going to need 6 of these. I'm going to use 2 each of 3 different colors to help you to see the pattern of assembly for this. So we're going to build the cube core first. The cube core is going to look like this. Notice all of these flaps end up on the outside. They're going to be important for being able to hold the panels together onto the outside. So imagine we put this bottom panel down first. We can take a second color and stand it this way. You can see that purple edge is on the outside of the display face of my green paper. Now, holding those 2 together like that, I'm going to complete a cube corner, like this. I'm going to put the pink one here so it slides under the green and over the purple. I can see all 3 colors in that cube corner, and I can see that the flaps are on the outside. So now that I have 3 together like this, I can add another one, and using the rule of having the same colors face each other to make the pattern of color symmetrical, I'm going to put the pink one opposite the other pink one, like this. Notice I've got the pink flap on the outside of the purple and the green flap on the outside of the pink. I can close up this wall with a green one so that it would be opposite the other green. I have to make sure that my green flaps stay on the outside of the cube here and there while sliding behind the purple edge. So now that I have 5 pieces together, the last locking piece can go into place. I'm going to lift these pink flaps up a bit, and I'm going to place the purple card underneath the pink flaps, covering the open hole of the box and making sure that the purple flaps all stay on the outside. And there we have the core of our cube puzzle. You can look all around to make sure every one of those flaps is outside. So that took 6 papers. We're going to use 6 more folded from the same size paper and in the same way to use as decorative panels. So, let's say I want to put a green panel here to cover this green. I'm going to put one set of green tabs down here underneath the purple and bring the panel up in front. There we have the top of the purple edges. It's helpful to gently curve or curl the flap so that it can begin to go behind those other flaps. So you see, once you get it started, that little curve that you put in the paper will let you roll it into place. So that panel is now grabbed and locked behind the purple. Now if you were doing this with postcards, wouldn't that be something to send to someone from a trip? And postcards come in nice packs. Or if you receive postcards from friends and you can assemble them that way. But every one of these panels is an attractive postcard from our recent trip to Hawaii. So I hope you'll enjoy trying different size cubes and different materials to recycle from. And there are many other projects that you can think of, I'm sure. Great gift boxes and pedestals. Enjoy! The card cube project is versatile, and here I've made a photo cube out of the same type of project. You can notice that there's a glossy film in front of everything, and that's because I have recycled some bits of plastic that would allow me to slip a photograph behind. So here's a trimmed photo. And this type of mylar film, fairly thick stuff, can actually be found from many projects. What we've done is taken the core cube, which you can learn in the other part of this project, this kit, and you build this core cube. Instead of taking panels of a decorative or opaque material and applying them as we've learned to do this way, trim the photos to be able to fit behind the film. And there you have the photo cube project. So learn the basic cube project, find some film and some photos, and build your photo cubes. cubic game pieces. In this kit you can learn how to make my modular chessboard, and you can also learn how to make cardboard and paper cubes. To make these game pieces or chess pieces for your checkerboard or chessboard, you would first build a core cube. Go to the cube project and learn how to do this. This is 6 pieces of paper. And then what you see I've done here is I've paneled 5 of the sides of the cube with an opponent color, either red or black. You could put a panel on the top that indicates the value of the piece. Works great for a chess set. You could play checkers as well. You can even make up new game pieces to go with a new version of some type of a checkerboard game that you could invent on your own. And the paper that we used here was 1 3/4 inches wide by about 2.5 inches long. And you can experiment with different sizes. So let's try a game of chess. Enjoy. Here is my modular origami checkerboard or chessboard, and it's made from 16 squares of paper. You can use gift wrap as I've done here, and there's no tape or glue required. All the squares are the same size as each other, and one side of the square is all white, as gift wrap is, and the other side is a decorative color. I'm going to use ordinary origami paper to teach you how to make the unit pieces and how they go together. I'm using 2 shades of brown so that when it comes time to actually assemble these, you're going to be able to have a better view of what's going on. Again, you would need 16 squares of identically sized paper. Now, we're going to begin with the white side up. Fold in half, edge to edge. This first crease is your centering guiding crease. And there it is. Take the bottom right corner of the square, bring it over, and align the top edge of the triangle flap to the crease. Rotate the paper around so that that triangle's in the upper left, and now you can go to the new bottom right hand corner and do the same thing. Flip the paper over to the other side, vertically the long way, and you can use the crease again, and certainly these corners here, to guide you in folding in to the center, the bottom square corner. You can see already we're getting our 2 colors to show. Let's rotate and do the other side the same way. So what we have are white triangle-shaped flaps. This is the side of the paper that must be facing up before you do the next step. We're going to rotate the paper just a 1/4 turn and fold the bottom corner right to the center. We're going to repeat with the remaining 3 corners. In origami, this is called a blintz fold, when all 4 corners are folded to meet in the center of a square area. And as you do this, you're going to see that your colored triangle pattern is changing now into a square checkerboard colored pattern, like this. Now, all of the pieces have to be folded identically, so that when they fit together, you'll get a correct checkerboard. I'd like for you to take a moment to look inside your puzzle piece, and I want you to see that those white corner flaps are oriented a certain way, and they always have to be this way when you're beginning any new puzzle piece. You need the white corner flap in the bottom right and the other one diagonally opposite in the top left. Okay, keeping the paper square that way. Let's start with this bottom triangle flap. You can see the folded white edge right here. Move that right side folded white edge to the bottom of the triangle and fold like this. Now, let's go to the adjacent flap that's on the left. Again, it's the white edge. Look at that. It's the top folded white edge. It's going to get folded to align with the left side of the square shape, like this. So, the left edge and the bottom edge are treated like that, and it looks like a shirt collar, you see? Let's leave that just that way for a moment. Sharpen the crease as well. All right, now you've had a good look at that. Let's unfold those flaps down and out like that. Now we can work on the remaining flaps. These need to be open before we fold them. For these flaps, it's actually the folded colored edges. You see this brown folded edge, the top edge of the flap? And that gets folded to the crease, the vertical crease, like this. And now look here, this folded colored edge on the right side of the triangle. Fold that down to the horizontal crease. Good sharp creases. And that's the way those should look. These two flaps are done. They're in their final shape. These two need a little bit more work. And we need to unfold those two areas first. We're about to do what's called an inside reverse fold, and we're going to do it to this triangular flap. What's going to happen is that this flap is going to be moving down and inside the paper. You're going to retrace the creases that are already in the paper. The flap is now pointing down. It's inside the layers. It's behind this white square. Let me undo that and show that to you one more time. Using the creases that already exist, open the layer. Start with this big crease first. Bring that down. Reverse this crease here. Flatten everything into place, and there it is. Inside reverse fold. So that's one. The second one, this one here, has to be treated the same way. You could position the paper one way or another, but it's just simply open, find your big hinge crease first, move the flap inside, reverse this crease here so that you've got your triangle flap, and then flatten the paper down into place like that. These are pockets, and they receive the flaps of another puzzle piece. You'll need to make 16 of these to build one checkerboard. When you come back, we'll start to build. Once you have 16 of these units, you can start to build your checkerboard. Notice how I've organized these two pieces. They're identical, but it's the flaps that need to be on the left and the bottom, left and bottom. And the pockets, you recall here, they need to be on the right and at the top. On the right and at the top. Notice the mountain crease in this flap corresponds to the mountain crease we've created inside this pocket. The triangle corners are congruent. They fit together. They're the same size and same shape. You see how I've put this flap inside the pocket. When these two are registered together well, you can fold those multiple layers tightly behind. It's all set up and it's quite sturdy. As a matter of fact, once you get the whole thing built together, it really will stay well. If I turn this over, you can see your checkerboard pattern is growing. The best way to build a full checkerboard is to build rows of 4, like this. So here I've connected 4 together in the same manner I showed you. Here's another row of 4. I would do another and another. So you'd have 4 rows of 4. Now fitting these rows together is very simple. These flaps at the bottom of this row will fit into these pockets at the top of this one. It's just like a zipper. So you put them in place. As long as they're already registered, you can lock them like this. Get the next one into its pocket. Remember, look for that crease. Make sure that your flaps are registered together, and then you can turn that under. So those are locked. Let's go on to the next 2. Here and in here. I think I'll just go ahead and lock this outside one first. That keeps the one inside nice and tight, like this. So now you see I have 2 rows. Let's see what the other side looks like. Wow, amazing. It's so fun to watch this grow. I want to talk about one more thing. This is the back view, but on the left side and the bottom side of your finished checkerboard, you'll have these extra flaps. So just simply turn them over like this. Just fold them inside, and then when you turn your checkerboard over, you'll have a nice clean display. You can even cover this with a piece of plexiglass or glass panel. Now here again is the complete chessboard. It's a great use of leftover gift wrap, any kind of paper that has a good contrast between the front and the back sides. So go ahead, build one, play some games of skill, and enjoy. Here is an elegant and efficient, clever bowl or dish designed by Nick Robinson from the UK. He calls this Ali's dish, and its pre-creasing method, which gives you the structure, is very simple. At the end, you're going to lock the edges with these little folded over flaps. And look what you can do with colorful pages from magazines and old calendars. Many calendars are already cut square, and you can use them right away at the end of the year. It's a great project, and I'm going to demonstrate this to you using a standard sheet of origami paper, which is white on one side. Whichever display surface that you'd like to appear on the inside of the bowl begins facing against the table. So this is the outside of the bowl. All right, let's begin. Fold in half by matching opposite edges to make a rectangle. The side you're seeing is going to be on the inside of the bowl. Unfold, flatten, rotate the paper 90 degrees and fold in half, edge to edge, the other way. And open. Now, you've got 4 equally separate areas of square paper, and you're going to begin at the bottom left square area. Watch how I'm going to put a horizontal valley crease across the middle of this bottom left square. I'm going to pretend as if I'm folding the bottom edge to the center crease. But I'm only going to flatten across from the middle to the left edge, like that. Rotate the paper 1/4 turn so that you have a new blank square at the bottom left, and you're going to repeat. Remember, pretending to fold bottom edge to the center, but only crease the left half. And again. If you're using heavier papers, there are two easy ways of putting all these creases in. One is to use a ruler and some sort of a scoring tool, and so you can actually scribe into the paper. Another way is to lightly spray the paper with water, and then that moistened paper will fold very well. Now, we have those 4 creases, and we're going to use the big horizontal crease to fold the paper in half, like this. So we have a rectangle, and we're going to put diagonal creases across here and across these 2 corners. The top layer only. Notice how I'm rolling the paper away from me, and also I'm guiding the crease so that it hits this top right corner and neatly to the bottom left. Good sharp crease. That's one diagonal. We're going to repeat going corner to corner this way. Again, it's only the top layer. Notice how I am rolling the paper until I can get those 2 corners involved, and coaxing it until we gradually flatten it down, then sharp crease. Well, there are the front 2. Turning the paper over to the other side, we're going to repeat. It's the same thing. You're going to need 2 diagonal creases, 1 and 2. Like that. Now we're only halfway done with that bit because we need to put creases that are similar to those but going the other way. So I've turned the paper, and you can see that my creases make a very tall rhombus, this diamond shape going vertically. I'm going to use the horizontal crease at the middle and fold in half this way. You'll see triangles if you've done all this correctly. Now let's put in the creases as we've learned before. You need 2 diagonal creases on this front flap. Flip it over to the other side and put in your final 2 diagonal creases. This bowl is actually very quick to make. Once you've mastered the routine, it really doesn't take long to make quite a few of them. Okay, now let's open the paper completely and look at the wonderful pattern. There's sort of a star or compass shape going on. And the display side that I wanted to show is facing up now. And so this is going to be the inside of the bowl. And you can see there's an octagon outlined by these creases in the middle. Let's begin at the bottom right quadrant, and you're going to see the outline of this triangle. This is a valley crease, and there's a valley crease, and dividing that triangle in the middle is this mountain crease. Look how those creases will allow you to easily do this. Make a flap out of this, folding that triangle in half. Be sure to let these inside creases of the octagon begin to work as well. Now, taking that folded flap against the outside edge of the bowl, here's the outside edge, And keeping these layers close, you're going to see a small crease here. You can sharpen that crease simply by folding like this. And then tuck it right in behind the outside edge. That's 1/4 of the bowl formed and locked. So turn it a quarter turn. Find your triangle and the crease in the center of it, which will let it fold in half. Like this. Don't forget the outline of your octagon. Bring the flap against the outer edge of the bowl. Crease and tuck. It's very enjoyable. And in fact, as you make these for practice, you're going to find that your fingers will be able to feel what to do. After you've made a number of them, you can make them without hardly even looking at what you're doing. And it's easy to teach friends how to do this if you want to have them help making a bunch of bowls or dishes for some dry snacks at a party. They're also great for holding potpourri or anything. Like that. Here we go. There's the last fold tucked in. And then you can double check to see that all of the creases are balanced and bent. Here's the outside. Allie's dish, designed by Nick Robinson. This traditional origami box is called a masu. It's folded from a single square of paper, and it's a very useful design to be able to learn for recycling purposes. Another project in this kit is this wonderful multi-piece lid designed by Richard Alexander. And so you can actually even make a beautiful lid to fit your masu. First, let's learn how to make the masu. You're going to begin with a square sheet of paper, and you're going to have the display side starting facing up. We're going to put pinch marks at the center of each of the edges. See how this is done. We're going to pretend first as if we're actually folding the paper in half edge to edge, but only put a pinch, maybe an inch or so, from about here out to the edge. That's the result. It does not cross the center. You see? Let's turn the paper 1/4 turn and make another one. These marks are going to help in several places in this project, and it's important that they are valley creases on the display side of the box. And here's the last one. Now the first way that these 4 marks will help is that we're going to be able to fold the 4 corners to the center. And that has to be done on the other side. This is the inside of the box now. Watch how I take a bottom corner, fold it away from me. I don't know exactly where the center is by matching corners, but the triangle flap which I'm forming now can be used edgewise against a left and a right pinch mark crease. Now, I can take the opposite one, like this. I can bring the corners together, and I can also use those pinch marks. I'm going to do the same with the left and the right. It's best always to fold away from you. So as you see, I'm repositioning the paper each time so that the portion of the paper to be moved will be moved in a direction from me and away. Let's take the last corner now. You can see how well those little pinch marks worked for me to be able to fold all corners to the center. The standard term for folding 4 corners to the center of a square like this is blintz fold. Now, we do know where the center is. That's where each of the 4 corners meet. And one at a time, we're going to move an edge of the square to the center, like this. Notice again, I'm moving away from me. That way I can look straight down and see where the center really is. Press in the middle and go out. I do want to make sure that these side edges stay aligned with each other. I'm going to now rotate the paper and match with the opposite edge. Like that. Before I do the remaining two edges of the square, I'm going to unfold the first two and rotate. Now I can get to the last two edges. To the center and its opposite edge to the center. Like that. And open. The square area outline you can see in this crease is actually going to be the dimensional square of the box. And the depth of the box is going to be these lengths here. These are the walls. Now, let's unfold only these two flaps going left and right. And I, at this point, always like to reestablish these two folds firmly. You'll feel at the ends that you're reversing some creases, and that helps everything go very well. Now all the folding's done. We can use the creases that we've placed in this paper to collapse the shape and to lock it closed. Remember those first creases we did, those pinch marks at the edge? This is where they ended up. Here's one, there's another one here, and of course there are two more at the other end. These are going to help you to be able to collapse the shape. Bending here first and pushing these in, you're going to make a wall with this flap. Bend the flap over the edge, down inside, and you'll see that this corner returns to the center. You see how that works? It's wonderful. It's so clever. And then we're going to do the same thing at the other end of the box. This is a traditional design. It's very old and it's well known around the world. It's one of the best recycling origami. It's practical, it's elegant, it's very useful. The masu. Here's a very attractive and clever box lid made from 4 pieces of paper. This was designed by Richard Alexander, and you can see that it's covering a masu, which you can learn from another segment of this kit. Now, if you want to make a lid that will fit a masu, there is a very simple bit of calculation to do to know which sizes to use. Your masu paper would be this large piece right here. This happens to be 14 inches square. And each of the 4 sheets of paper that you would use to make the lid would be exactly 1/4 the size of your starting paper. So for instance, if you took 1 sheet to make the masu bottom, and then you took a second sheet and quartered it, which could be done as simply as doing this. Now you know where to cut. I'm going to use this single square to show you how to make the unit piece for the box, and then I'll show you how to build a box from 4 other pieces. Begin with your display side facing down against the table. So I want that brown color to show mostly. It's facing the table. And fold in half, edge to edge, to make a rectangle. Good sharp creases are essential for neatly folded boxes. Take this top long free edge and bring it down to the bottom to match. like that. Again, nice sharp crease. And return the edge up to the top. We're going to begin over here on the left, this top front corner and this bottom corner. Folding to the crease, move the corner to make a flap with a straight edge aligning with the crease. Do the same with this top corner, only the top layer, right there to the crease. Now, the only other corner that will be folded is up here, this top front right side corner. Again, to the crease. Now, while our paper is in this form, we're going to go back over to the left side, and we're going to fold, bending the paper along this margin here, straight across, like that. Unfold, and you're going to see that the crease follows these edges. Now we're going to take this top flap, which easily bends at this crease, and bring it straight down to the bottom, covering most of the bottom area. Turn the paper over to the other side, and up here at the top left you're going to see there's a single square corner. I'd like for you to also pay attention to this crease line here. What we're going to do is make the decorative white star by making a triangle-shaped flap. There are two places to guide you. One place is the top edge of this crease. You want to guide the fold to stop there. The other place is somewhere on the bottom folded edge. You see, like this. When you have things aligned properly, you can put a good sharp crease there. Yes, you will see this little extra corner showing. Don't let that bother you. It's not a problem at all. Turn the paper over, and we can make this three-dimensional now. All the creases are there. Look to see this mountain crease, behind it a valley crease, and when you sharpen the short mountain crease and use the inside valley creases, you will have two walls and a portion of the top of the box. The outside looks like this. Now, puzzle pieces have parts, and I'd like for you to know that there are two parts here that you really need to pay attention to. One part is here on the outside. Here is a triangle, and it's a different color in this case than the other part of the box. Look here to see that things could go behind that triangle. The other part is on the inside of the box, and there's a similar triangle. It's another layer, and there's another place for something to travel behind. And you can see that this edge of the box lid is between those layers. So I'm going to refer to those as pockets. Let's see how these may go together. Your box unit has a long edge and a shorter edge. The shorter edge is where those pockets are. You're going to take the cut end of one of the long edges, like this, and you're going to place it underneath the short edge. Notice how this portion of the paper is going behind this flap. Here's where you need to pay attention to what goes in here. This bottom folded edge travels inside the pocket in the front, but also in the back. All the way in like that. It's a very nice lock. It's going to look like this. So remember, the short edge goes inside this layer. The long edge travels inside the pockets. Let's put in the next one. Like this. Now get the pocket started and slide like that. Here is the next one. Like this. And then we can slide. Getting it started past this point can be tricky, especially with thicker papers. Here's the last one, but also I want you to notice what's happened here. This is where we weave the top. You have to be sure that this shorter edge is on the outside of the box before you can actually accomplish the last lock, like this. And you have the woven star pattern. Yes, sometimes there's a hole there. Sometimes not. Depends on the thickness of the paper and some of the folding that you've done in advance. And then if you fold your masu from a piece of paper that's 4 times the area of your puzzle units, you will have a perfect fit. Box Lid by Richard Alexander. Colorful candy wrapper butterflies. Actually, you can use many kinds of scrap pieces of paper to be able to make these butterflies. In fact, you're going to need paper that has a rectangle shape that's long edges and short edges. Candy wrappers are perfect for that. And of course, you can experiment with different types of papers, trimming them yourself. In fact, I've used here a demonstration piece of paper, origami paper, cut to the same proportion as the candy wrapper. Now, you're going to begin by folding the colorful side to the inside, bringing the 2 short edges together to do that. So we've got that in half. Now, keeping the folded edge of the paper to one side, I put it on the left. I'm going to bring the double cut edges here and here together to match. And that way I'm folding this white rectangle in half. And unfold. Now, you can recrease that center part to bring, say for instance, the right half straight up off the table and open it. Be sure that you open all the way to this cone bottom right here. And keeping the layers together, we're going to do what's called a squash fold by squashing flat this pocket. Notice that I've kept this center crease aligned with the middle folded edge to make it symmetrical, like that. We have to do the same thing on the other side, so let's turn the paper over. And it's a good idea to exercise this center hinge. Keep the layers against the table flat while you turn this page and sharpen that crease. And then stand the center portion up against the rest of the layers like this. Open the bottom cone, keep your layers organized and together, align things, and squash. Your paper will look like this. You have a square corner here at the bottom and a split portion at the top. Fold the bottom square corner up to the top of the split, like this. Good sharp crease. There are many layers there. And unfold. This hinge separates what will be the body and the wings. And we're going to make the wings now 1/2 at a time by opening the side pocket like this. And it's another squash fold, like that. You can actually experiment with different angles of squashing this, but for the demonstration, I'm aligning this crease with the center of this V notch. And I can do the same thing on the other side, simply like this. Notice that the squash points end up dead center along the vertical axis. We're almost done. We're going to bend the paper across the center line here. This is a mountain crease raised like a mountain ridge. This corner is the back end of the butterfly, the abdomen. Notice how I'm making a folded flap out of this folded corner, and I'm aligning the tip of that with the back edge of the wing. Up here at the front, I want the folded edge to angle and even try to get rid of any stray corners. Just want this nice wide angle here to be flat. Let's now take the lower wing set and bring it up to the upper wing set to match. And you'll be putting a new fold in right along here. Let's open the wings now to see what that did. Those last two folds separated the wings from the body. And now let's work on the head. Up here at the top there's a very small area, and you can see there's a raised keel of paper. While the body stays closed, you can simply pinch and flatten that keel like this. See from the side how flat that is? That lets that bend to the back. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take that excess paper and just bend it around under the front end of the butterfly. So that makes the butterfly's head. Here's the other side so you can see how it looks. The last thing we're going to do is to taper the back end of the butterfly. Bring the wings together for a moment. Let's see where everything is now. The head is over here on my paper on the left. And then there are these two corners in the middle. Long edge, short edge. It's actually the two short edges that we're going to move mostly, and inside to the center crease. So I'm going to take this short edge, grabbing that corner, and then pushing it inside toward the center crease, like that. Let's turn the paper, and here's the other short edge. It's on the left now in my paper, and bend that corner in so the short edge hits the center inside, and flatten. Now let's open the butterfly. I like to put some fairly strong creases up near the head, bending the wings outward. And there it is. A simple butterfly design that can be made from almost any scrap of rectangular paper. Multi-piece candy wrapper flowers. You can see that I have used small pieces of candy to get the wrappers from. And certain other kinds of candy wrappers could be folded into simple shapes like this for leaves. Each flower will require 5 to 6 pieces of candy wrapper, and if you're using a candy wrapper like this, you could actually trim the part that you desire the best, but you're going to use square shape, so you can actually decide which part, and if you wish to get more than one square from each wrapper, you can cut like that. I'm going to use a larger piece of paper that's square as a demo. Now, the display side of your candy wrapper that's going to show best on the flower needs to be against the table to start with. And we're going to fold in half, corner to corner, each of both ways. So there's one diagonal crease, and there's the other, and unfold. This helps us establish a grid as a reference point. Now, let's take the bottom left edge of this diamond and roll it to match the vertical center crease, like this. And the right side square corner gets folded in to the center where the creases cross. just like that. Down here at the bottom, you see a cut edge of white paper. That edge gets rolled over and aligned with the vertical center crease, like this. Now we're going to unfold that most recent fold, and we're going to do something called an inside reverse fold. A reverse fold is when, say for instance, a valley becomes a mountain. It's bending the opposite way it was, and a mountain can become a valley. So when they're done in concert with each other, paper layers can move inside. And that's what's happening here. I'm sharpening the longest outside crease, like this. I'm going to look at the next crease. That used to be a mountain crease. I'm going to bend exactly the opposite way that it was going before, like that. And then this final crease here, you'll see a small crease, that is going to bend as a mountain crease. It used to be a valley. So I'm using the creases that were already in the paper, but I've reorganized the way they're arranged in order of layers. And you can see it went inside, and some creases were reversed to do that. Inside reverse fold. Now we're going to clean up this area by folding the square corner inward and aligning an edge of this triangle flap to that crease, and return it. You see, that's all cleaned up instead of having this extra layer that could catch on things when you try to build. Now we're going to use this horizontal short cut edge as a guide to be able to bend this portion of the paper around the back. Once you begin to do that, you'll find it's actually best to flip it over to take a look at the other side to see what you're doing. So once you have it at the correct level and this corner aligned with the center crease, you can make that fold for real. Just like that. Let's turn it back over and you can see where that happened. You'll also see that there's this little flap here, and we need to make it more defined, keeping these layers tight together, and like turning the page of a book, we're going to flatten it over and you'll see the outline of a kite shape here. Bring that layer back and you can see the work that was done. We need that crease there, that hinge. Let's flip the paper over to the front side now, and we're going to take this left side flap and we're going to do the same thing. We want a hinge there. So keeping everything flat to the table, I'm going to grab that flap, and just like turning the page of a book in some manner, I'm going to flatten it over. And there's that kite shape again. Let's bring that back closed. And there's the crease we need. Here's the finished flower petal puzzle unit. Puzzle pieces have parts. I'd like to explain them to you. Each flower petal will have this double flap at the lower left. You see? There's a front flap and a back flap. And in the center at the bottom, there is a paper with a split in the middle. And that will give you two pockets when you fold your flower petal in half the long way, like this. You can see there's a pocket here, and if I move the other edge, there's a pocket there, a folded white edge in the middle. Now, let's see how two of these flower petals can come together. On my purple paper, you can see my double flap, those tabs I will call them. Each could be fit into one of the pockets. So, I'm going to put the front tab into the front pocket of this split, and I'm going to insert the back tab into the back pocket. You see? One in the front, one in the back. And when this pink flower petal, as you see in my hand, is folded in half this way, it's easy in, easy out. But when I return the pink layer to the back and flatten the petal out, it's locked. You see it's caught at that folded over bit there. To add new petals, we would advance in order, folding your pockets in half and adding new petals. 5 or 6 of them makes a nice flower. Here I have 6. Almost finished, and they've been added to each other the way I have demonstrated. What I need to show you though is how to connect both ends. This is the most recent petal that I've added, and this is the first petal that I began with. It's important to switch the layering so that your tabs from your first flower are inside. Now fold your receiving petal in half so that you can use the tabs and pockets the way you have been doing. And you're going to cup the flower when you do this. It's very flexible. Be brave, it'll work. One in the front, one on the back. Return that last layer over. Here's what the underside looks like. It's pretty that way too, isn't it? These make great holiday ornaments when folded from colorful foil papers. And then here it is, the finished candy wrapper flower. No glue, and the hole in the middle would accept a stem. You can use florist wire, and you can fold little leaves. We've just taken some square paper, folded all 4 edges in to make a rhombus, and you can build some beautiful flowers. They go well with your butterflies. The sailboat envelope. It's folded from a square sheet of paper, and in this case, pages from an old calendar. And you can use travel brochures if you like. Maybe you'd like to send a nice note to someone while you've been on a trip. It's also a great thing to make from gift wrap. You can coordinate it with the gifts or send a thank you to someone after you've received a gift from them. Why not take that gift wrap paper and use it to make the envelope? Put your thank you card inside there. See how that card is enclosed by the boat? And the decorative boat is a buckle, which allows you to lock the envelope closed. And you can address and stamp it on the other side, hand deliver it. I'm going to use an ordinary sheet of origami paper to teach you how to do this. And if you're going to have a decorative side or a preferred side showing for the boat part of the boat, you should turn the paper over. That color should be against the table. I want white sails on my boat. I'm going to get white sails if white side's up. Let's begin by folding in half, edge to edge, and open. Rotate 90 degrees and fold in half, edge to edge the other way. And open. Now we're going to fold the bottom edge to the middle horizontal crease, like that, and open. And next we're going to fold the right side edge to the vertical middle crease. You can rotate the paper to do that. It's more comfortable this way. And open. Let's take a look at that pattern now. So down here in the bottom quadrant we have 4 small squares. And then we have 2 rectangles on the left, 2 rectangles on the top right, and a nice clean square up here. Let's rotate the paper so that the bulk of that folding is in the bottom corner. And flip the paper over left to right so we're on the other side. Once again, the majority of the crease pattern now is in the bottom corner. Let's take this bottommost corner of the square and fold it to touch where these creases cross above it. That's actually the center of the square. Like that. Now unfold and flip the paper over right to left You can see the crease pattern we have here now. Let's take that bottommost corner once again, and this time fold it to touch this intersection of creases here. And you make this little blue triangle on the paper here. Now the left and right corners get treated in a similar way. I'm going to fold the right corner over so that the top edge of that triangle aligns with the first crease that it comes to. And let's do the same thing on the left corner, rolling that over and aligning it with the crease. Make sure none of the edge covers or goes beyond the crease. It has to stay within or behind the crease. Down here you can see a horizontal mountain crease, and we're going to just pop it in the middle like that to break it in half. It does that very easily. We do this so that we can coordinate a collapse. I'm going to do this once completely so you can see where we're going with this. I'll undo it and show you again. You can see the sailboat beginning. But all the creases to do this collapse are already here. This major crease and the one on the left that's just like it. If you get both of those going at the same time and flatten them out firmly, and then trace your fingers back down to the bottom corner, then push this triangle to the table flat, and you'll have done it. Now, we're going to do a little pre-crease. That means we're going to fold and unfold something. We're going to take this bottommost corner and fold it to touch right there where the split meets that folded edge of colored paper. Like this. The bottom corner bends up. You see where it's touching the edge of the sailboat right in the middle? And make a nice sharp crease like that. And unfold. That's a pre-crease. It's going to be helpful in just a moment. Turn your paper over bottom up like this. There's that pre-crease we did. It's at the top now. We're going to use that to bend that triangle flap to this side of the paper. On the other side, we use the sailboat as a guide so we know how large and where to fold. And on the back side now where this really goes, it's got the right size and shape and placement. Now, go to the bottom corner and fold it to meet here at the intersection. Like that. And right here at the top of this triangle corner, we're going to bend the paper top down like this. Now here's where you can use the side edges of the sails and the edges of the triangle as a guide. See how I keep them aligned as I press in the middle and fold across? Now I have exactly the right place to make that fold. We're almost done. These left and right corners are going to be folded to meet there at the center of the sailboat. I like to turn the paper so that I can control it comfortably. Place the corner just where I want it in the center of the sailboat. Press down here and flatten. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side with the other corner to meet it there. Just like that. Good firm creases. And of course, when you want to put something inside of your sailboat, it has to be able to fit within this rectangular area. It can be held first by this flap. Bring down your sailboat. Tuck in your left and right corners. And there it is. It's a beautiful envelope to be made from so many kinds of papers out there. A thank you envelope with an origami flapping bird that actually works right there on the envelope. It's a great project to do some recycling with. Imagine you get a nice gift and you have that beautiful wrapping paper. After you unwrap it, why not cut a square from it and fold this envelope to enclose your thank you card. You can have a lot of fun experimenting with other kinds of papers and purposes for your envelope. And I'm going to use ordinary origami paper to teach you how to do this. You'll usually find the best results if two sides are contrasty, different like this. So this is the color I wish the envelope to mostly be. I'm going to flip it over and I want the bird to be white. So we start white side up and fold in half diagonally like this to make a triangle and unfold. Rotate 90 degrees and let's fold in half diagonally, bringing the other two corners together to match. And unfold. We have crossing creases marking the center, and that's where each of the four corners of the square will end up, one at a time. I like to start with the bottom corner. See how you can control the paper very easily if you do it this way. Put the corner precisely at the intersection and then press at the bottom, slide out and across, and there it is. Now you can rotate to give yourself a new bottom corner, and it works the same way all the way around. In origami, in English, this is referred to as a blintz fold. It's a standard origami beginning for many projects. All four corners. Like this. So there is our blintz. Unfold only one corner. And flip the paper over to the other side. Here's that corner flap that we unfolded. And you can see it has a single layer cut edge here and a single layer cut edge there. All these other edges are folded edges. We're going to fold the cut edges in half one at a time. So I'm going to take the square corner and I'm going to bring it up to this obtuse, this wide corner, like this. I'm folding that particular edge in half when I make this flap. You see? The edges are lined together, and when I open it, you can see that edge was broken into two halves. And we've put this nice long crease in there. Let's do the same thing with the other edge. Here is the edge that we're going to fold in half. The square corner is going to come up to this obtuse corner, like this. And fold. And now unfold. Look at the interesting crease patterns we have here. Valleys, mountains, valleys. And they work together like this to collapse the paper into a shape that will allow us to make the origami bird from the white area and the envelope from the rest of it. Now, let's flip the paper over bottom to top like this and undo this flap. Notice these overlapping colored layers here and how they can open. Also now notice this inside horizontal crease. This is going to be a very important hinge because when we open both of these simultaneously, you can see this almost box-like shape because of that hinge. Keeping these open and using that full hinge, bring this large bottom flap up, flattening along the hinge, and your paper will look like this. Let's turn it over left to right. Here's the paper that will become the paper bird. And now that we're on this other side, so we can really see what we're going to do, and we're going to clean up the layering of these shapes here. Here's the open top of the envelope, and it's this flap that turns inside and to cover some kind of greeting or card that you could put in there. Now, I'd like for you to pay attention to the fact that this rectangular diamond shape, this square diamond, has closed folded edges along the top. You can see they're nice smooth folded edges here and here. And the bottom edges are cut edges that are open, that let you see the paper inside. That's an important distinction because we're going to move only these two sets of cut edges into the center crease. So I'm going to start by taking the bottom right side edge, aligning it with the center crease like this, and likewise the bottom left right there with the center crease. Make good sharp creases here. And you have a kite shape, and some people refer to it as an ice cream cone because at the top you have this shape that could be the ice cream, and here we have the cone. What you can do now is to take that top triangle shape, the ice cream, and fold it straight down over the cone, just as far as it will go flat. Unfold, and also now unfold these two. And you can see this triangle outline. The next step, which is called a petal fold, will actually go a little bit more easily if you exercise these longer creases by bending the paper backwards like this. You can open the paper to any degree to let you do that. But making these two lines more flexible is very helpful. Now we're going to do what's called a petal fold. This crease is going to bend. This triangle stays flat. From the bottom open part, we can see how that hinge lets me bring this flap upwards. It looks like an open bird's mouth. As I stretch the corner up, the sides will automatically want to come inward. And now I can flatten the whole shape around its perimeter, sharpening the creases to make this tall, narrow diamond shape, this rhombus. This top flap will be the bird's wing. We're about to turn these two flaps into the long legs of the bird and the long neck. We're going to use inside reverse folding to do that. You can actually do a pre-crease first, which means putting a guiding fold. If I take this corner and fold it up and away, I can see that there are limits to its range. And those limits are actually here where the split stops. You see there was a split in the paper from here to there. And likewise down here at the bottom where this corner is. So I can do this first and unfold. That set of creases that I've just made will help make the next step more simple. To do the inside reverse fold, I actually have to get inside the paper. I'm going to use this big valley crease first and lift this flap up. I want you to see that this crease, which is also a valley crease now, is going to reverse into a mountain. See how it's bending? So I have valley and now mountain. And if I keep moving the flap up and bring the neck paper flat to the table and then push the wing and front part of the body flat to the table, the reorganized layers will look like this. You've made an inside reverse fold for the neck. Let's do the same thing on the other side. You can put this pre-crease in. Observe the same set of limits. Like that. Bring it back. You have to get inside to do an inside reverse fold. Big valley. Move the flap. Reverse this long crease. Flatten. Smooth. And flatten. And there we have the setup. Now, You could put the head here or there. It doesn't matter. I do tend to leave this side for the legs and this side for the head. The head is an inside reverse fold as well. And you can do it very directly now. You see, if I get my thumb under the top layer here, look what it does to this corner. It turns it into a flat layer that wants to deflect downward. Using the crease that's already there, I can install a valley crease. I want you to see what that looks like from that view. Flatten, smooth, and flatten. There's the bird's head. And we're going to hide this extra corner here by reversing the paper around the back like this. It'll just fold right behind, and it gives it a nice clean look. To lock the envelope, we're going to fold these corners in and tuck behind. Here's the other one. Inward and tuck behind. To make sure that the wings flap easily, what we often do is fold the leading edge of the wing on itself. That means bending the edge over, edge to edge, and making the fold hit this back corner. So if I align the wing something like this, I put a bend in here that's very helpful. Here's the starting position. You have to put the wing back up. You can see that little crease there. And to make the bird flap, with one hand, hold here at the base of the neck. With your other hand, grab the end of the, you could call it a tail or the legs, and then gently pull to start it. And you will see that you can get the bird to start to flap its wings like that. So now you have the flapping bird envelope, and it is a very clever and attractive envelope. Here we have my origami shuttle dart. I love designing and folding paper airplanes, and this one has some very interesting features, not the least of which is this little nose lock, which keeps the airplane closed at the front end without the appliances of any kind. And paper airplanes are great to make from old letterhead. Here's an old letterhead that I used to use back in the 80s. It's no longer useful for me as letterhead. I don't live there anymore, but trimming it square, I can use it to make a very nice flying airplane. I'm going to use ordinary origami paper to teach you how to make this. And when you begin with your paper, if you want a certain display side showing, you have to have that side facing up during the first fold. So I want a mostly green airplane, and I'm going to begin now by folding in half, edge to edge, and unfold. Rotate 90 degrees, and edge to edge the other way, display side on the inside, and unfold. So we still have the nice color facing up. Take the bottom edge of the paper and fold it up to match the horizontal center crease. Like that. So you've made a folded edge here at the bottom. And now as we turn the paper over to the other side, keep that folded edge at the bottom. So I'm going to turn it over left to right. My folded edge is still down here. There's a vertical center crease, and we're going to use that to make a standard airplane point. And that's done by folding the bottom right and left half edge to align with the center crease. So there's my bottom right half edge. It's now in alignment. And here is the other half, meeting it there. standard airplane point. Your paper will look like this. Unfold those flaps back to where they were, and you can see now that we have these two valley creases at 45 degrees to the bottom edge. We're going to use those as a target, and what are we going to hit it with? We're going to use these raw or cut left and right edges. So on this right edge, I'm going to roll it in, aligning it with the crease, and your paper will look like that. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. It's the side edge of cut paper, not the bottom edge where the fold is. Roll it inward, aligning with the crease, and fold. Let's use these creases now and fold over these two flaps. And you get this nice V shape. And I'd like you to pay attention now to the vertical cut edge of paper you see here, where the white and the green paper meet. This is our new target, and we're going to hit it with a portion of this leading edge of the wing, this folded long edge. Here's how. Roll over to make that leading edge run vertically and in alignment with that cut edge of paper, and then fold. You're going to make a very unusual four-sided shape out of that flap. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Roll over, align, and crease. As I mentioned, it's a four-sided shape, and we can regard two of the sides as being short. These two here we'll call the short edges. And we can regard the other two as long edges, this long edge and that one there. What we're going to do is move this raw or cut long edge to align with the folded edge. Now, to be more comfortable about it and accurate, I'm going to rotate the paper, but keeping track of the edge, it's this cut edge aligns with that long leading edge of the wing. Let's do the other one now. Here's our four-sided shape. I'm going to take this cut long edge to the folded long edge. And those will be decorative and actually helpful fins. Let's put in that nose lock, and that has to be done on the other side. So we'll flip the paper over, and you're going to see there's a paper triangle here at the bottom. Two folded edges here and here, and the top edge is a single layer cut edge. Let's put some pre-creases in first. We're going to take perhaps this edge first, the bottom right folded edge, align it with that top cut edge, put a nice firm crease in there, and unfold and flatten. Now we have to do the other side. This left folded edge, you could have done the left folded edge first and the other one after. It doesn't really matter as long as they both get the same treatment. And now we have these valley creases which meet right about there. Here's what that's done. It's allowed this edge of that triangle to move into the nose area. We're using those creases, and as we close the paper airplane in half, wing to wing, that locking mechanism is in place. It's also a landmark to help you with setting the wings. Now, to fold the wings separate from the body, I like to rotate the paper so that this long edge of the airplane, this is the bottom edge of the airplane in the center, in the fuselage, is horizontal and at the top. Grab one wing, make sure you're paying attention to this edge, for instance, that leading edge, roll it up to match, like that. And you'll see that the fold here towards the nose comes very close to the nose lock. There. Let's flip it over to the other side. and repeat with the other wing. Now you can experiment with other angles of folding wings. But this is a good standard to start with. Move the wings flat and perpendicular to the fuselage, and then move out the flaps at the ends of the wings. What you're going for is sort of a stair-step effect, you see? Make sure that they are symmetrical so that you'll have balanced flight. And while the fuselage is closed, flex each wing upward slightly to make what's called a dihedral, and you see that Y shape. Look, the nose is locked. Hold the airplane right about here and give it a good toss. Now here's another thing that I like to do, and you can experiment. Paper airplanes are wonderful for experimenting. When your wing arrangement is this way, you could go to the back edge, fold it over like this, edge to edge up here. And then I also like to squash fold this. This is a little bonus I'm adding. It's not in the diagrams, but since we're working together right now, you can learn this. Look at that. I'll tell you what that does for the airplane later, but we need to do it to both wings. So again, the short edge goes to the leading edge of the wing. You'll find a pocket. You can squash fold it. See how I align this crease with the folded edge that appears right underneath it, and then flatten everything out. You don't want things to be too exaggerated here, because a little difference makes a lot. Let's put those fins back out. And this wing faceting that I have developed and like to add to some of my airplanes is a nice option. These are sort of like elevator flaps, and you can flatten them or elevate them to give you more control over the climbing glide of your airplane. And as I said before, have fun and experiment with all kinds of paper. Here is my Art Deco wing. It's one of my favorite flying toys that I have designed, and it's a great one for recycling. Again, letterhead is wonderful. You can cut squares from all kinds of paper. This is a wonderful gliding wing, and any way you launch it, either this way, overhead gently, or hold it by the nose and throw it straight up in the air so that it loops and glides, it will surely fly very well. I'm going to teach you how to fold this using ordinary origami paper. So remember, this is starting is from a square shaped paper, and you're going to begin with the wrong side up, and you're going to have to fold the paper in half diagonally like this. So now I have the display side facing out. Here you have these two acute angle corners and a right angle corner at the top. One at a time, bring those two corners up into the right angle corner, like this. We have a split here, and it's composed of parallel folded edges. And we have shorter folded edges down here at the bottom on the outside. We're going to make pre-creases by bringing the long folded edge in alignment with the short folded edge. One on the left side of the model and one on the right side. It's actually more comfortable to fold away from you, so if you would like to reposition the model so that you can do your work this way, you may find it easier and more accurate. Now we're going to return these flaps back to the top. The creases that we've just put in there are going to guide us into shaping the wings. Notice how each flap opens like a cone. You don't need a tool like this, but you may find it useful because you want to open the cone all the way into the bottom point before squashing it. And you're going to see that the creases that you put in the previous step will guide you to making this very nicely formed kite shape. That's one of the wings. Let's do the other one. Just like that. Let's flip the paper over, bottoms up like this. And we have this large corner flap, which we're going to now roll away as far as it can go flat. Gradually I'm decreasing the radius of the bend in the paper until I can flatten it. But it's corner to corner here, and that's as far as it can go flat. And we've revealed a new corner flap, and we're going to do the same thing. The limits are here and here for this one. Rolling away from you, like that. Tuck this triangular flap's top corner inside the paper there. Let's rotate the paper now so that we can take this square corner flap and fold it to touch the middle of this folded edge right here. I'd like for you to notice these two creases in your paper. They're going to be helpful for the next step. You're going to move this bottom folded edge up, but you'll want to keep it right there within the crease marks on the left and on the right. It's a good landmark. And now we're going to get rid of the extraneous corners. As you can see, I have a profile here underneath that I'm going to actually need to fit within. So what I like to do is to take the side cut edge and fold it to the top folded edge here, like this, edge to edge. And now it fits the profile. Let's clean up the other side the same way. The reason why this flap needed to be reshaped so much is because it's got to go up, over, and down inside the nose. It gives it a good clean shape, and it's always a good idea to add weight into the nose of these gliding toys. There we go. Nice and clean. Now, you're going to need to pay attention to this folded edge of paper here and this triangular shape. Keep that flat against the table as you lift up this middle edge here and fold it against the folded edge I showed you a moment ago. You can get right inside there and get into this corner on the right, slide across, and into this corner here. So you can see the hinge that I've made here. Now we can push the side corners over as the hinge lets me move this paper down towards the nose. I'm going to try to guide my crease carefully toward the top corner here and flattening right there at the overhang and then down like this. I've made this little square outline here and this very nice little parallelogram there. Let's do the same thing on the other side. It's a squash fold. Like that. Take a look and see how that geometry turned out. And this portion gets tucked inside. Nice and clean. This is the underside of the airplane. Let's look at the top side. What a nice shape. The last things to fold are these two corners. These will become vertical stabilizers. Fold those over the back edge of the wing and then stand them straight up. The Art Deco wing, a really nice gliding toy and a great way to recycle paper and maybe get a little exercise, go outside and have some fun. Here is a snack bag wallet. There are several compartments. It's very clever and a very interesting way for using snack bags. And you could even use old Tyvek envelopes of different types as they come to you in the mail. Now, for instance, here we have play money. This is actually a nice wallet for kids to enjoy for play, but it's also great for store coupons. And this is a regular size potato chip bag. Because we wanted the colorful and attractive outside to show, it's important to begin with your bag with the inside out. And in fact, when you're going to use a snack bag, it's a good idea to clean it carefully first. So what you would do is cut the top edge straight and neat. And then you would trim and cut open the bottom edge as well, so that you have a tube with the inside out. Now it's easily washable and then you can dry it. If you're using a Tyvek envelope or a paper bag, you don't have to go through that step. The next thing to do would be to put a center crease horizontally, and that's easy to do by folding in half across the middle. And if you're using these plastic bags, a good sharp thumb crease is helpful. You can then fold your trimmed edges to close to the center. It's actually a good idea to leave a gap. You'll see why later on, but it's adjustable even so. These are just guidelines for you to do the next step. The next step is kind of fun. You turn these open edges inside out. Many of these bags are quite strong. And of course, paper grocery bags are very strong as well. You can experiment with different kinds of bags. Rolling this outside edge toward your crease is one guide. Another guide is the crease that you will have put in the previous step. And notice that I'm unkinking these layers until I reach the crease. And there we have that edge. We'll do the other side. You can even use fabric that has been backed with paper. So you can get quite a few different effects, and without really any special tools or even sewing or paste or tape. There we have it. You see the gap I've left here? Now you can look at your pattern and decide which portion you want on the outside. So here I want these panels outside. And when you fold the wallet in half this way so that it fits into a pocket or a purse, again, you can decide which view you would like. Here are the two outside compartments, but there are also two secret inside compartments. So here it is, the snack bag wallet. Fun, useful, and it's recycled. You can recycle or even use leftover party bags to make a very attractive container that seals itself up. I call this the ballot box bag. There's a little slot there. If you want to hold an election, you can fill it with ballots. But it's also a wonderful gift bag. Any of these box type paper sacks work very well. In fact, the strongest ones that you can get are the grocery bag type, small ones and larger ones. And you can put quite a load in here. It's quite solid. If you're using recycled content paper bags or some of these attractive gift bags, it'll be helpful for you to put some 2-inch wide clear shipping tape or some type of reinforcement around the top edge, because the paper that these kinds of bags are made out of is actually fairly easy to rip. What I like to do is to hinge this part at the bottom first so that later on things can go well. And I'm going to begin at the open edge here and fold about an inch over. As you can see, it's half the width of the reinforcing tape. If I was using a very strong bag without the reinforcing tape, I would just simply estimate about an inch or so. And I like to hinge it in the front and in the back several times. That's going to make the next step easier. And that next step is to turn that edge inside out. This gives a nice finish folded edge, and it also helps to reinforce the open end of the bag. In the case of a gift bag like this, it also adds a colored trim. There. Now, the next thing to do is to collapse the bag using the regular creases that such a bag has there. And make sure that this rectangular facing flap is up so that you can use this free edge as a guide. And here is what we do. We take our trimmed edge right to that edge there. And once again, I do like to reverse the crease. It's going to help other steps later on like this. So exercise that crease a couple of times. This next part's a little tricky, but it's fun. We're going to make sure that this folded edge and these layers stay together against the table. And we can open inside here on the left and right sides. There's another side here I'm going to start. We're going to open, and when you can start it that way, it will easily let you do this. I'm performing little squash folds and making these square corners. And I've created this little tray shape, this little rectangular tray. I'm going to now square up with creases these long edges at the base so that they make a nice rectangular trim. You can do that all the way around like that. Okay. Once again, you can make sure that everything is flexible. And then we're going to open the bag again. How else could you put something inside? There we have the open bag. Now the bag can be filled with things. And I think I'll just use this bag as a filler for now. Whatever it is that you put in there, make sure that it can be below what's about to happen. So you want to make sure that your bag has enough empty space above to be able to finish the collapse. And here's how this works. We bring the sides in and we compress the free space at the bottom onto the contents. We find the creases from that earlier little box tray. There they are. See how it seals that up? It's going to look like this from the sides. And now to lock it, we are going to turn this part over and inside out. And that is going to lock the bag closed. It's going to give it a nice contrasting trim. I'm going to clean up those little creases that we put in earlier, square it off. And a simple or decorative paper bag, recycle, can be a really good container. Lots of uses for this, and it's a fun fold to try. I hope you will. Enjoy. Here's a clever and useful origami modular book designed by Rona Gerkowitz from the United States. You will not need staples, tape, glue, or even sewing to do this. And you can use beautiful papers from gift wrap, from magazine pages, from calendars, and if you're going on a vacation, you could use brochures and take notes and have some recollections from your trip and send these instead of postcards to friends. It's a very clever design, and there are attractive ways to modify it. You can even make a book that opens landscape. I'm going to use 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. You could use A4 paper. You could use any kind of paper that would give you a basic size around like this, but they all have to be exactly the same size as each other. And to learn how to do this, you should have 10 sheets total. Now, the inside of the book is going to be made from white colored pages. So this white sheet represents that. The folding is very simple. You're going to take one of the narrow edges and you're going to imagine a zone somewhere horizontally in the middle area. It doesn't have to be precise, but once you have that in your mind as to where that might be, you're going to fold the bottom edge into that zone. Make sure that your cut edges on the right and left side stay lined up with each other. Make a good sharp crease. Now, rotate the paper 180 degrees and take the new bottom short edge and bring it to match the one that's already in the middle zone. Like this, edge to edge. You would need to make 3 of these to have the white pages inside. There's one final fold, and I want you to pay attention to where this split is, because when you fold in half the short way for your pages, the split must be on the inside. See? Edge to edge, short edge to short edge, like that. So that the clean pages of your book do not have the split showing. So once again, fold 3 of these white pages. So what holds the pages together? Connectors. And I'm going to use this yellow-green paper to represent a connector. You need 4 connectors. You always need exactly 1 more connector paper beyond the number of pages you have. So I have 3 pages in the book, I need 4 connectors. If I needed 100 pages in my book, I need 101 connectors. It begins the same way. Take the bottom short edge to the middle zone, like that. Rotate it 180 degrees, but now we have a slight difference here. This short bottom edge does not meet edge to edge with this one. It has to overlap about 1/8 of an inch or so beyond. So, it doesn't have to be precise, but you can get very good at doing this by estimating. So, there's actually an overlap here. And here's why. The connectors need to be able to fit inside of the pages. I'm going to show you how that may work. Look at this. Because of the overlap, my connectors are not as tall as the pages. See how they're easy to fit. So you can always test your connector with a page you've already made to make sure they fit. Now here's the last fold. Remember, you've got that split, and in fact it's an overlap. There's about 1/8 of an inch or so. Now on this one, for the connectors, the split has to stay on the outside of the shape. So when you fold in half edge to edge, short edge to short edge in this case, the split needs to show. That's a connector For our project, you need 4 of these. Now for the cover. An attractive piece of paper for the cover. The cover paper is folded exactly the same way as the page. So, you're going to fold to the middle zone, rotate, and match short edge to short edge. They meet and match. Like that. You'll need 2 of these for the covers, one for the front cover and one for the back cover. And just like the pages, the split has to be inside when you fold in half, short edge to short edge. You need 2 of these for the covers. The last bit is the spine. You only need 1 sheet for the spine. The book has only 1 spine. And it's folded in a similar way to the connectors. So, short edge to the zone, rotate, and overlap. Remember? You need a small overlap of about 1/8 of an inch or so. Okay, I've got the overlap. If you want a soft spine, you're not going to put a hard fold in here. When it comes time to building the book, you're going to let the spine make a gentle curve. If you wish to have a square spine, you can put a fold somewhere near the middle, like this. Depending on how thick your book is, after you put your first fold, split on the inside, you're going to put a parallel crease representing the thickness of your book. I do know that my book is going to be about that thick. So now I have a square back spine. It doesn't matter if one of these is longer than the other. In fact, I actually prefer that. When it comes time to building this, I like to have one of these edges a little longer than that. Okay, so let's build a book. Here's a collection of folded parts to make the basic book. 3 pages, 4 connectors, 2 covers, 1 spine. We'll use the spine and covers in a moment. Because of the overlap, the connectors are narrower than the pages, and so they'll fit inside. Now, you need to build your book so that half of one connector is left over at each end. That's where you'll be able to attach your covers. So, you're going to put one end of a connector inside 1/2 of a page, like that. Here's my first page, and there's the leftover piece of connector. I'm going to build by adding more connectors and pages to the other end here. So, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to put, you can see how this slips behind and inside the page of the book. We're building a fan-folded construction. And of course, you know, you could pre-print your papers so that when you build this, you can have a wonderful story. You could actually come up with an annual story, print and fold and build your little books and send those instead of a letter. Some people during the holidays like to send a postcard to everyone, or a greeting card and with a letter telling them what they've enjoyed about the year. Okay, see how that's progressing? The connectors tend to become invisible in the back, and you have a nice clean set of pages on the inside. So always think of fan folding shapes when you're building this so that you'll orient your connectors correctly compared to the pages. I'm going to add another one here. And you will end up with a connector half sticking out at the other end of the book. So remember, the rule is, depending on how many pages you have, you always need one more connector. That'll give you the correct count. Okay, so here's what I've got so far. I've got a connector at one end, a fan-folded collection of pages. Here comes my last connector. Like that. Then you can get them to fit together and add the covers. So here we have your book middle, your connectors, and now for your covers. So which end of the cover do you apply to the connector? Think of your fan folding pattern like this. You put this side of your cover on the connector because you need this side on the outside and something to put your spine onto. So it works like this. Just as if it were another page. But because it's the cover, we stop at this end. Let's put a cover on the other end. Oh, and here's something. This cover was folded the same way the pages were folded, and so it is the same size and shape as the page. But what if you wanted a quarter binding or a decorative trim on that? Well, here's what you could do. Realizing that this half of my cover has to be attached to this connector. You know, it's going to be attached here. I can be creative with the outside edge. And that means I could open this up. I could fold the edge in however much you wish, or if you want an angle, it's up to you. Like that. Refold. The part of the cover that applies to the connector is still full size. But you see, now you've got a shortened outside. And that will let your contrasting spine show a decorative element. So this is the back of the book. And let's see how that spine works. Let's go first on the typical side, which is where we mentioned before. I'm going to take one end of my spine. You see, it's eventually going to be casing the book like this. And I'm going to insert the correct edge into the cover on this side, like that. Now, you see, it goes right to the back, and I have just a straight connection there. But because of what we've done here, when we put this end of the spine into the cover, there will be more reveal of the spine paper. And here's a quarter bound effect. And there's the finished book. There are many other things you can try. It's a very, very wonderful system. And remember that you can also do this landscape mode. And I want you to know what I've done here. I used a decorative punch. I punched a hole in the cover here. Also, my reveal is angled instead of vertical. Well, what did I do with that dropout from the punch? I pasted it there, little origami crane. So there are many ways to enjoy this wonderful book and recycle all kinds of paper. I hope you enjoy this. It's one of my very favorite projects. I call this the calendar wreath, and in the origami world it's also called the Meta Beschetter Lafosse ring, because Meta Peterson began by making these wonderful flat multi-piece faceted and star-pointed rings that are very clever. Paolo Beschetta from Italy came up with a boxed out version of that, and that was very inspiring, and I came up with a system of doing different proportions using a tool, and you'll see more about that in a moment. But look how all kinds of papers can be transformed. Here obviously we have an old map was used. I call it the calendar ring because it's actually a great thing to make from a calendar that's left over at the end of a year, because you need 12 pieces of square paper to make one ring, and many calendars come already square, and of course they have these beautiful photos. So imagine this: you receive a nice calendar as a gift one year and you use it all year long. Why not transform it into something like this, and then you can send it back at New Year's time to the person who gave you the calendar and thank them for a wonderful year. Well, you're going to need square papers, 13 in all, 12 to actually build the puzzle from. But you're going to need one square of the exact same size and shape as all the others to use as a tool. And I'm going to use this blue and white origami paper to show you how to make the tool. It's nice if you have paper that's colored differently on each side, but it's not essential. Begin by folding in half, edge to edge, like this, and unfold. So your paper is divided into two equal rectangular halves. Take the bottom edge and fold it to the center crease which you've made there, like this, and unfold. So now we have quarters of the square. We need to add one more fold. Take the same bottom edge, fold it to the lowest crease, like this. What's half of a quarter? An eighth. This eighth deep margin, folded over edge, will help you to put the center spine in all of your pieces. So this tool I'm going to teach you how to use now. If you can rotate it away from you, folded edge to the top, and each and every one of your square papers for your calendar wreath is going to go in display side down. So you see I want the green to show, it's down. I'm going to put the top edge of my square into the top edge of the tool. Make sure that that edge is contacting inside where the crease is. It doesn't matter if it's eccentric like this in any way. It does not need to be centered this way at all. Now once those two are together like that, you're going to take the bottom edge of your folding paper and bring it edge to edge with the tool and fold right here. Now, making sure that these edges are in line with each other, and that was edge to edge, unfold and take your folding paper out. Rotate the paper 180 degrees. You're putting the edge of your folded paper square from the short portion up inside the tool now. In the same manner, make sure everything's contacting well inside. You can now repeat the folding step, the bottom edge to match that folded cut edge of the tool, like this, and take it out. You can see the margin matches your quarter, but more importantly it's what happened to the inside area. Look at the creases, the parallel creases in the middle. That makes the spine. You can make different tools with different proportions, quarters and thirds, what have you, and you're going to be able to come up with different kinds of wreaths. And you may have to adjust the folding method for that, but this is what the tool does, is it gives you this center spine. So you need 12 of these. Once you have 12 of these, you can remove the tool from your work area and we can continue. Now, to make each puzzle piece, you need the parallel creases to be running vertically. And we're going to work on the top two corners of the square only, folding over like this and aligning edge to crease, right like that. And let's repeat with the other corner. Edge to crease, just like that. Looks like a house. The bottom edge now is folded up right to where the bottom edges of the triangles are. So that's a nice landmark right there. We have a rectangular area here now, and we're going to fold that in half, long edge to long edge. Crease firmly. There's many layers there. Like that. Unfold, and you're going to see that you have 3 creases. 1, 2, 3. This topmost crease is a valley crease. It bends like a valley. And we're going to use it just the way it is to move that flap straight up. You're going to see 1, 2, 3 equal divisions in this paper and an area left clear at the top. Turn the paper over to the other side and you'll see these triangle flaps and a sloping folded edge. Fold the flap firmly over the sloping edge. And the same thing with the other side. Almost done. Right along the level of the bottom edges of these triangles, we're going to fold up this bottom edge. It will actually feel like it wants to do that already because, in fact, there are creases in the paper already there to do that. Just so that you see, that's where the crease really happened, but the flap stays up in front. And now here's where those original 2 parallel creases come in. Keeping this horizontal band on the outside of the shape, sharpen the 2 center creases to box out this shape. Just square it up like that. And that's a finished puzzle piece. Puzzle pieces have parts, so let me explain to you where they are and what they do. This area is where the pocket is. See how my finger can go behind both of these layers? That's the pocket. There's another one just like it on the other side, right here. And we have tabs, these rectangular extensions, one on each side. These are tabs. Let me show you how 2 pieces can fit together. Here are the pockets of my yellow puzzle piece. Tabs go into pockets. I'm going to insert this rectangular green tab behind both the lower and upper layer, like that. Now before I push it all the way in, I'm going to flip the paper over to the other side and grab that tab and slip it in. Now I can push them firmly together. They'll know just when to stop. Now, if we were building a complete one of these, you'll be adding them going all the way around. And as we get towards the end, you'll see things are going to start to collide. But don't worry, because the paper is very flexible. And notice here I'm adding a yellow one, front side, back side, like this. And it takes 12. You can actually squeeze in a few more, but a calendar has 12 pages, so it's just really quite ideal. I'm going to add the green one in here. like that. And my final puzzle piece is added to the chain, like this. And we have a collision here. It's just right. Here's our tab from the green on each side, which can then be slipped into the yellow pockets on each side. And there's my calendar or zodiac wheel. There are 12 characters in the zodiac. And these will stand up and balance on the table. You can use them as shadow boxes. I have sometimes taken a piece of monofilament hanging from the top and hang a little origami model, perhaps a crane, right in the center there, and then it would stand as a beautiful display. So, a wonderful puzzle. I hope you'll enjoy experimenting with many kinds of papers for this project. These marvelous origami puzzles are curler unit balls designed by Hermann von Haubergen. And you'll need 12 squares of paper to make one. Here I've used greeting cards cut into 4-inch squares. And for this model, I've used ordinary memo cube paper, 3.5-inch squares. And I've used different colors. First, let's learn how to fold Hermann's curler unit. You're going to need a square piece of paper. I'm using origami paper. You can use whichever kind you like, but if you're using 12 pieces, they all have to be the same size. We're going to begin with the colored side up if your paper is different on each side. Fold in half edge to edge to make a white rectangle and open. Rotate the paper 90 degrees and fold edge to edge, color or display on the inside, white on the out, and open. Flip the paper over so it's a diamond shape and you're looking at the other side of the paper. Flatten the center, bottom corner up to the top corner to make a colored triangle, and unfold. Rotate 90 degrees and match together the two corners, making another triangle. The creases that you've placed in the paper will allow you to collapse the form into a 4-pointed star. This is a very common traditional origami basic form, sometimes called the water bomb base. The curler unit is made from this, and it's made by curling each of the 4 flaps. It's helpful to use a pointed tool like this wooden chopstick, and you can use this to begin curling a tight cone shape from the flap. It's a good idea to make the curls tighter at the beginning because they're going to stretch and relax later on. Notice the direction of the curl for this first one that I've made. Once I've begun that way, all other curls must rotate in the same direction. So if you begin counterclockwise, all your curls on all of your pieces must be counterclockwise. If you begin clockwise, they must all be clockwise. It's actually pretty quick work. And if you wish to use heavier papers for your curler units, such as greeting cards or heavy cardstock, you can actually slightly moisten the paper with water. Don't put too much water. Just a slight mist on each side of the paper is enough. And you'll be able to put nice tight curls in even the thickest papers. So here we have one of Hermann's curler units. You need 12 of these from paper that is square and all the same size. There are many ways to build beautiful forms from Hermann's curler units. I'm going to teach you the basic way, and we begin by assembling curler units into subunits. So notice how I can put just two curler units together involving two curls. I'm going to take a third curler unit and involve it together with the other two into the same curl. You can see that they're all involved together at that hub. The next thing you need to do is to look here where two colors meet on the outside. Lock together the curls of those two colors. We leave this curl by itself. We go to the next two curls, which are different colors, and lock them together. You see it's actually done so by itself. Let's go around, leave a single alone, and when we have two different colors side by side, we lock those. This is the finished subunit. Notice there's three curls in the center. We have groupings of two curls in three places, and we have three single curls. Make 4 of these subunits, and they'll look like this. To finish assembling the ball, we put these subunits together. Here's the basic rule. You will lock double curl units together with other double curl units. See the pink and blue and the pink and blue? I'll put those together and I have 4 curls together. I'm going to go to the other side where I have a double yellow. I'll pick up another curler unit and take its double yellow and put it together, and there I have another grouping of 4. Now notice what's happened here. I have 3 different colors, and it's the single curl of each. I can involve those 3 together and I have a trio. Ultimately, you will only have quads and trios. Let's look around and see if I can find another trio. No, not yet. Let's go ahead and take a double. I have this double pink and yellow, which I can lock together with a double pink and yellow from my remaining subunit. Now we're getting some trios. Here I have pink, yellow, and blue singles. Together they go. And look what's beginning to happen here. I've got 2 doubles that I can put together, the pink, blue combos. Let's look around for remaining connectors. Here I have a trio that can now get involved. And let's see if anything remains undone. Aha! Here's my double pink yellow. So I have a quad now of my pink and yellow. Let's go around and see what else we have to do. Here's a double yellow blue, double yellow blue. So I've got a quad again. Let's see if I've missed any. Isn't this marvelous? I love how this works. We have these groupings of 3s and 4s, this beautiful swirling design. This is just a marvelous piece of work. There are so many variations on this curler unit that you can try using more pieces and different ways of combining them. I hope you'll enjoy being creative with this and try many different kinds of papers too. This origami heart design was designed by Florence Temko, and as you can see, we've used rectangular papers such as an American dollar bill or a soup can label. It's a great scrap paper project, and I want you to see what I've done here so you can learn about proportions. The dollar bill proportion, the short edge to the long edge, works very well for this heart. It actually matches the proportion of the soup label right off the can. And if I wish to expand to make larger rectangles from any scrap of paper. I can simply keep the lower left-hand corners of the rectangles together, have a string line or a straight edge run through the consecutive corners up to the outer edge of my scrap paper. I can place a pinch mark or a pencil mark at that point. You can see I've done that, and trim straight across. This lower portion that's left over will be the same proportion as the rectangles we've seen before. Now let's begin the project. We're going to begin on the inside or wrong side of the paper and fold in half, short edge to short edge. This gives us a center crease line which will allow us to make a nice symmetrical heart. Take the lower right half of the bottom edge and roll it up to align with the vertical crease. And we're going to do the same thing with the bottom left half to match. Now we're going to turn the paper over to the other side. Here's our center crease. We're going to take the left and right short edges one at a time and fold them to the center like this. You can reposition your paper to be more comfortable while you do this. For instance, this way works very well. Then we unfold. Notice the creases, the vertical ones here on the right and on the left, and also this colored cut edge. We're going to take this colored cut edge and bring it down to match the bottom end of these creases. We can begin like this with both hands to turn the edge over, and keeping an eye on the crease, you're going to bring it down to match the end of the crease. Just tack it there for a moment while you go ahead and do the same thing on the other end. Keep an eye out for where the end of the crease is and tack it. Once you've got it in place, you can fold right across the middle inside like this. Yes, the sides will bow open and we're going to squash them flat like this. Notice that this vertical raw edge is probably going to closely match where that crease is. It's okay if it's a little off. It depends on the proportion of the rectangle that you actually use. This is called a squash fold. Watch carefully again. We're going to open this, make a nice flattening pocket shape, vertically align this raw edge, and we're going to be folding flat down here and up the side like that. Now, right here where these creases are, we're going to fold the paper straight over. These creases are already in your paper. They work like hinges, making it easy to do this. Next, we're going to use this horizontal folded edge as a guide for bringing these corners down. Notice that the folded edge comes down to that level, and fold. Once again, you can rotate the paper to make things more comfortable, for instance this way. But here's your target, this folded edge. Roll over, match this colored folded edge to the white folded edge, and sharpen your crease. And there's a split at the bottom at this point. The next step would be to take the flat raw edge that you see here and fold it to that same stopping place, like this. Likewise on the other half. The heart is upside down at this point, and it's almost done. You can see on the front side what the shape looks like now. But what's missing is the little V-notch up here at the middle, and that's easy to do on the back side by folding one corner over this way, the same bottom stopping edge, like that. And likewise on the other side, you're going to see that that edge helps make things symmetrical. And then when we bring the heart back around to the front, there it is. Florence Temco's marvelous origami heart. This marvelous project is a mushroom by Vincent Floderer from France, and it's made by crumpling the paper, and the realism and yet the lyrical artistry is amazingly achieved in the most simple way. And you can see that there are many kinds of mushrooms and details that you can add. These chanterelle and other types. Flattening the bottom allows them to stand up. You're going to use some type of scrap paper that is crispy and thin, like tissue paper or wrapping paper. Brown wrapping paper is good as long as it's thin and crisp. You're also going to need to use some water at some point. And I've got a face towel here with a piece of plastic underneath to protect my work area. Because you're going to be using water, always pre-wet a sample of your paper first and see if it bleeds color. You don't really want to get that on your clothes, your fingers, or your work area. The water should be in some type of a glass that is cylindrical and fairly deep. I'm going to keep this off to the side for a moment. I'll show you the preliminary work. Here we have a large square of this tissue paper, and I'm going to estimate where the center is. Just give it a pinch, shake it a little bit, and flute it. We're going to be doing this several times. Each time we're going to open the paper. You're going to see that we've put in this nice array of crinkles. Grab the paper at the center again, defining it perhaps a little bit better this time. And flute, crush, and crinkle again. Each time you do this, the creping will become finer and finer. You especially want to make sure that happens up in this area where the cap will be. Let's open it a second time. You can see the creping is finer still. I'm going to go a third time now. Like that. You can see how compressed this is. And we're going to open it yet again. Now, you can put your fist up inside and start to round out the center, making it like a dome. On large papers, you can actually put it right on top of your head, as Vincent does. Now, we're going to make something that resembles a volcano by making a crater like this in the center. The diameter of the crater's rim will be the diameter of the mushroom cap. You should also double check to see where the center is. If it's off center, you're going to just adjust where the perimeter forms, like this. The next thing that you'll want to do is to define the edge, perhaps a little bit, like this. And push the center back in and crush once again. At the other end, you'll see that the four corners of the square paper can be discovered again and separated, just to make sure that they're not too involved with each other, and crumple. Now here's where the water comes in. You'll be dunking the paper twice. The first part is to get moisture into these corners, and as you push the paper into the water, it's going to crumple down at the bottom, allowing you to put more length in there. Pull the paper out, let it drain, and gently squeeze the water out of the paper. Some papers are stronger than others, so use your judgment about how much pressure. Now let's find those corners again. I'm going to demonstrate the simple way of making this mushroom. Each of these 4 corners are going to be separated and brought up the side of the stem. It's always a good idea to make them symmetrical so the layers will be balanced. It's a good idea to have a smooth stem, so you may wish to unwrap these tangled ends, spread them out, and bring them around the base to make a nice smooth stem. And then you're going to collapse that. The cap exists somewhere in this length here. You do not want to wet the paper from the bottom of that volcano up. From here up, keep it dry. You will want to wet the remainder below. So here's the second dunk, right in there. Hold it for a moment to let the water soak in well. Bring it out, let it drain, and squeeze the water out. Now the paper will work like molding clay. I'm done with the water, but the project is still rather wet, so I'm going to keep this here. Now the bottom can be rolled around and molded smooth. If you're going to make a trumpet type of chanterelle, you can simply flute the shape like this, and it's basically done. If you want to make the classic mushroom cap, you're going to open it like an umbrella. The gills, the cap, the stem are all there. If you want to have the mushroom be able to stand up, you can flatten the bottom of the stem against the table until it balances. Let it dry overnight and it will be solid like a piece of wood. A wonderful project. I know you'll enjoy making many of these. Thank you, Vincent. Here is a project which I like to call the pinwheel envelope, and that's largely because at this stage it resembles an origami pinwheel, but also it has an enveloping compartment. Anything that can fit in that square area can be enclosed and then locked up. It's a wonderful way to give a commemorative gift that includes a note, and you can use many kinds of paper. This one contains a souvenir coin. This is an old design and it was often used as a thread case. Here we have an old thread case from China made out of fabric and handmade paper. This was given to me by my paper-making friend Elaine Koretsky from Massachusetts. She collected this on one of her many trips to China. Loads of compartments with these wonderful twists, and all there for holding threads and needles and things to sew with. Let's go ahead and make one of these. An unusual aspect of this particular design is that it's going to have to be folded from a piece of paper that is divided into 9 equal squares. So we have odd numbers to deal with. And the first thing you're going to need to do is to be able to divide your paper equally into thirds. Here's a way that works rather well. You can estimate visually by taking what you believe to be 1/3 the width of the paper across the middle. And then you can take another third estimate across the back. Roll them against each other until you're able to make sure that they are equal in length and lined up together. When that's true, you can flatten the paper, and now you have your marks in equal thirds. Like this. If they truly are equal thirds, you should be able to fold them neatly into a rectangle like this. Now we have to get thirds going the other way. Once you've done it the first way, the second way is actually very easy. Here's what I like to do. I will take a lower corner and bring it in so that the bottom 1/3 edge matches the vertical crease next to it. I'm not going to fold all the way. I'm going to put a pinch mark right up here. That pinch mark is the 1/3 mark. I'm going to turn the paper now and fold this edge up to that pinch mark. Open, rotate, and fold the opposite edge into the new crease. Once again, if you were careful with your work, things should work out well. And now we have our grid, 9 squares. Turn the paper over to the display side, and we're going to start at the bottommost square. What we're going to do is take the bottom edge of the bottom square and align it with the vertical crease to the left, like this. Don't fold all the way. You're only putting a crease across this bottom square. It's going to look like this. You can use this horizontal crease as a guide. Undoing that, you can see we've placed a valley crease diagonally in the bottom, and it's oriented in this way. Rotate the paper, and now we have a new bottom square. We're going to do this to each of the remaining squares, which we can find in the middle at the bottom of each new edge as we rotate. And it goes very quickly, as you can see. You can use this white square corner, for instance, to match where these creases intersect, to give you an idea that you've got things going the right way. But you have to have this crease and edge aligned together to get it right. Now, let's turn the paper back over to the inside, and we're going to work on the 4 corners. Here's how. Pretend as if you're folding the paper diagonally in half. Bring the bottom corner up to the top. Now, we're only going to crease through the corner in this outermost square. It's defined by this triangle here. So we're only creasing from this third out to the corner. And you can see what we've done. Just this square was diagonally creased. We're going to rotate the paper and do it again. 4 times all together. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, it's very quick to do. What we're putting into the paper is a crease pattern of valleys and mountains, placed just where each needs to be, and programming the paper to actually do something very complex. However, it's going to be very easy and neat to do. These 4 corners have been programmed to fold in half. If I take 2 of them together and start to give it a twist, you're going to see how I can involve in this folding. To know which way to twist, you're going to look at your mountain creases, which are in these edge squares. They know just what to do, so let them do their work. Bring the sides and corners together, let them overlap, and flatten. There's your pinwheel. Anything that you wanted to put inside, whether it's a written area or whether you've actually included something, could fit inside there. Now, to finish the envelope, let's wrap it up. One at a time, we fold in these triangular flaps. Go over to the next one, which can cover the one you just used. Just like that. Rotate, and it works like that all the way around. And finally, the last one gets tucked in like this. There's only one place for it to go to make this woven closed note. The pinwheel note, a marvelous design. You'll find many uses for it, I'm sure. Enjoy. This project is David Brill's marvelous origami version of a Japanese masu, which is a wooden measuring cup, and this size is often used for drinking sake. David was very impressed with these boxes. They come in different sizes, and he's created this ingenious folding method for duplicating this shape. It's folded from a rectangle that has the proportions of 1 to the square root of 2. This is an example of the typical writing paper or printing paper, a standard throughout Europe and Asia. This is what's often called A4 paper. It has very interesting properties. Let me explain a few things to you about that. If I take one of these rectangles, which has the ratio of 1 to the square root of 2, and fold it in half to create a 45-degree angle corner. I've folded this corner in half. I've defined an area that could be a square. The length of this diagonal crease is equal to the length of the longest side of the rectangle. It has some very interesting properties. Now, because that's true, that the length of the crease, the 45-degree angle crease here, is equal to the length of the longest side of the paper, you can prepare that same kind of rectangle from a square sheet of paper like this. For instance, I'll put in a 45-degree angle crease. So I've folded a right angle corner in half. I can take one of the edges that is connected to the crease, for instance this bottom one, and fold it to the crease. This edge would be the longest edge of our A4 type rectangle, and the point where it touches the crease is the length of the square diagonal. At that point, I can fold or cut away the remainder above. And here is that kind of rectangle with the same proportions of 1 to the square root of 2. There are some other very useful properties which will help us to prepare for this particular project. For instance, dividing the paper into equal strips in fifths. I'm going to begin by folding the paper in half, long edge to long edge. There I have a horizontal crease, which is part of the model anyway. I'm going to take one of the short edges and bring it across the paper so that the square corner touches the crease at some point, and that I could crease right up to the upper corner here. I'm going to put a strong pinch mark right here. This point of intersection, where the horizontal crease intersects with that latest crease, is now a 1/5 mark. For instance, if I fold this opposite short edge to that mark, and then fold tightly over at that mark, this is 1/5 that length. I now have to divide these two into halves, which is easy to do this way. Now that I have this crease, I can actually fold in half here by bringing the opposite short edge to that new crease. And here I have equal fifths, which is also part of the project. Another way of doing this would be to take a large piece of paper and make sure that the longest edge measures an amount that's equally divisible by units of 5, so that you can get these marks measured. For instance, if each of these were 3 inches and the total length was 15, the ratio still has to be 1 to the square root of 2. Now let's begin the project. Here I have such a rectangle, which has already been bisected the long way and into equal fifths. I'm now going to take the long bottom edge and fold it to the horizontal center crease. And this produces 2 rows of smaller rectangles, 10 altogether. The bottom row of 5 will be divided in half diagonally in both possible ways. Here you can see I'm putting in a diagonal crease spanning those 2 corners. I'm going to march right along in the same direction. It's important to note carefully your landmarks, that is, any intersecting creases right here and where creases may touch the end of the paper there, so that your crease will span the true diagonal. We can move up to the next one. Turning the paper over, looking for your mark, gradually flattening it to the table and coaxing it gradually to the end, and then a good sharp crease to flatten. All of your creases for this project should be very sharp, because many of these creases are going to have to move in concert with others to collapse and close the form. This last one is easiest to do in this manner, so that you're moving a smaller amount of paper and controlling a smaller area. Like that. So now you can see that we have these diagonals in. We need to put diagonals going the other way for each one. I'm going to start at this end so that I can simply use this corner. 1, and so on. This model is a wonderful skill builder, so that your practice of these repeated techniques will gain you strength in your folding accuracy, as well as your ability to handle different types of paper, because this is a wonderful project to try in all kinds of paper, especially for recycling purposes. Okay, so now we have these crossing diagonal creases throughout the entire lower row of rectangles. And each set of crossing creases has a point of intersection. That's useful for us now. I'm going to rotate the paper to handle this the most comfortable way, so that I can bring the opposite long edge right to that set of points. It's important also to keep these side edges aligned, and a good sharp crease there. And unfold. So we have now this parallel set, which will actually be the lip of the box. Let's turn the paper over to the other side now, and we're going to work on some small creases in this horizontal band, and then some vertical creases going up into the larger rectangles. From this side, which is the display side of the box, the creases have to be mountain creases, which means to do this. These are going to be 45-degree angle creases, and so it is helpful to look on the other side, align your raw edge with this crease here, make a good sharp fold, and then check the work. There I have a 45-degree angle diagonal mountain crease on the display side. We're going to put 4 more, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we can turn the paper over. I'm aligning this crease with the one right underneath it, and I'm making my little diagonal there. There it is. And I can move right along now. Again, aligning creases. I have 2 more to do. There. This last one, just as before, it's probably best to work it from the other end so that you're handling a smaller area of paper and you can control it more easily. So let's go back to the outside, and you can see with the bulk of the folding at the bottom that starting from the left I have these 45-degree angle creases. Now at the point where they intersect the topmost horizontal crease, we're going to be planning mountain creases that will travel straight away and hit the top edge. And this is easily done once again on the other side. Turn the paper over. Look carefully at the terminating point of your diagonal crease down here. Keep this short vertical crease aligned with itself at the underlayer. And as you're flattening the paper, flatten it so that this short colored edge, for instance on my paper, is aligned with the longer cut edge underneath it. And that will give you a nice parallel band. And there it is. Let's go to the next one. There's the intersection point. We're going to roll away, find it from the other side, and fold. And the next one, you can see I have made these marks. You will not need to make such marks on your paper. You'll be able to clearly see those creases, and with a little care you'll hit them straight on. And once again, I'm at the end, so I'm going to turn the paper over and get it from the other end. And there we have it. Like that. So, now that we have these vertical creases, these are the most recent mountain creases that I've put in on the display side, I'm going to need to put diagonal mountain creases that are 45-degree angles that are going to be basically coming from the top of the newly installed creases and hitting their partners across the way. These will be all mountains, so it's best to do them as valleys on the other side. I'm going to fold over to the furthest crease away, and I'm going to fold until I hit that horizontal crease, like that. Let's go on to the next one. So you'll count 1, 2, it's this second one that is the target, and traveling until you hit the first horizontal crease. It defines a triangle of this type. We're going to go on. Okay. And we do not need to add one to this last rectangular area. And that's because there is no additional band across here. So leave this last one alone. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. These are done. Now you'll notice that we have another nice landmark here, here, and across, as these vertical creases that are to the left of the target crease intersect with those 45-degree angle creases that we just installed. We're going to use those creases to fold the top edge over like this, making a narrow strip. Like that. So that fold happened along that set of intersections. We have another set of intersections here and so forth. We're going to fold through those. As it turns out, if we take this folded edge, which we've just made, and bring it to match not this first crease, but this second horizontal crease, that's a good guide for the placement. But you should always double check to make sure that those intersections are also correct. There we have it. Now let's unfold the whole thing. And we're going to fold in half. This is the original horizontal crease like that. Notice that one side of your paper has that row of X's. Turn that away from you so that you're looking at what's actually the inside of the box. And now use this horizontal mount and fold to make the rectangular lip. We're going to do some pre-creasing in these areas to get each of the square joint sections working in advance of their needing to be activated when we put this all together. Now, in the beginning, this could be a little bit tricky. What you're going to really try to do here to each and every one is make this longest crease a valley. Let the shorter crease, which is to the left of it, be a mountain. And you can see here how these two wall tops are going to be squared up. They will be hollow, and they'll form this nice right angle corner. You can also then sharpen inside here. I'm going to give you an inside view of what's going on here. You can see that there is an L-shaped wall happening in here with a little bend. You see that flatness over there? And you can see inside here. So that's a crimp. Pre-creasing each of these crimps is very desirable because you're going to need them to work in concert when the tube is collapsed and you're going to make that wall top suddenly appear. The sheet of paper that I used is 15 inches long, its longest dimension, and that's a nice size to work with. Smaller than that, you may have trouble getting your hands inside the model, but once you're familiar with all of the folding techniques for this wonderful pattern, you will be able to work with smaller and much larger models with relative ease. There we go. So I've gone along and I've pre-creased each crimp so I know that it's going to work. Now I'm going to flatten everything back out using the original horizontal halfway fold. And I'm going to start to bring the two ends together. This layer being on the inside, the folded edge at the top, you're going to make sure that it's the right end of the model going into the left end. Like this. The way to realize why that's possible or necessary is because if you look on the outside of these panels, there are no extraneous creases. You'll see a nice rectangular flat clean area on each one of these 4 panels. If you accidentally put the wrong one in place, you're going to end up with a model that's not going to have the proper way of locking, because you're going to lose this inside bit here, which needs to be inside there. So here we go. This goes inside. Now let's make the top rectangular lip work. From the bottom, you're going to notice several layers, and you need to get a hold of each one to be able to give it a push. If you can try to get them all pushing at the same time, you're going to see that this top is going to take its form. The trickiest corner is the corner where the overlap hits, which is right here at this junction. So try to keep the box tube tightly together and square it up while you push this wall in place. What's going to happen next is really kind of interesting. Inside here, where you've got this inner tube, you're going to try to grasp all of those four walls like this, and you're going to simultaneously twist the paper. Now, you really can't see what's going on in there, so what I've done is I have prepared a little model. This is an X-ray view of what it's going to look like after you successfully make that twist. Getting each of these going, twisting, so that you have this blossoming, overlapping square shape, pushing it and making the lip paper fold will give you, from the inside view, a flat square tray. And notice the overlapping crossing areas. Once again, what's really happening inside there is that all of this paper has twisted, made a little tray like this, has made the inside of the model square and flat, closed bottom. And you'll also have this excess paper, which is going to be used to seal up the bottom. And there's a sequence to that, which is what we're going to do now to finish the box. Have the box handy so that these double overlapping layers are to the left and vertical. Begin by folding this triangle corner up inside like that. Now you can take this top left corner along with the extra layer. Using the creases that are in there, you're going to go ahead and fold the paper this way. I've moved this flap out of the way for a moment just so that you can see that. Leave this flap out. So this is that next step. Now let's talk about the top right corner. Using the creases that are already there, fold down and in. Now the lower right corner, fold over. All these creases are right there to help you. This remaining corner is folded in half, like this, as the bottom layer comes up. And it's this folded corner which can be tucked in behind the top triangle layer, like this, weaving the whole thing closed. When we return the paper top side up, we have the finished Origami Masu by David Brill. A real finger twister, a wonderful design, and a great way to use that marvelous rectangle. Thank you, David.